On this episode of League Legends, we're joined by the highest scoring forward in Premiership history. Steve Menzies scored an incredible 180 tries in his 349 appearances for Manly and the Northern Eagles. In a career that spanned over 20 years, Beaver won 2 premierships with his beloved Seagulls, 3 Origin series with New South Wales, and represented his country 15 times. Stephen Beaver Menzies, welcome to League Legends.
Thanks for having me.
I think it's important off the top just to kind of put your career in context, because you debuted in 1993, a couple of months before I was born.
Yeah, makes me feel old.
By the time you finished playing, I had graduated university, which kind of puts it in context how long you played professional rugby league for. How did you do it?
Look, it's just one of those things. I think you gotta love playing. If I could play tomorrow, I'd play tomorrow. It's just one of those things I've always loved doing since I was 7 years old. So you got to obviously enjoy it. You got to have a bit of luck with injuries, and then good genetics to be able to play that long. So it's and a bit of evolution in the game. But just look back and I've been so lucky to play a sport that I would have played for nothing, and got paid doing it. So I've had a good run. You speak about evolution of the game. How much did it change in that time from when you started playing to when you finished? Yeah, it was a huge change. It's when I first started in '93, everyone had full-time jobs, and I was going to university doing PE teaching, and Craig Hancock, who was a mechanic, and Tooz was an accountant, and we'd literally just turn up at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and we'd do a few weights and do that weights for half an hour, and Cliffy would read his paper, and then we'd run over to Brookie Oval and train, and that's sort of how it was. It was none of this scheduling. There was wasn't full time, and then by the time it finished, it was different ways of training for forwards and backs, and different diets, and completely different. It was and they just turned into specimens. They were so fit, so athletic by the time we'd finished. I read once that you called yourself just an okay player. You said you're pretty good. But the stats seem to defy that assessment of yourself. Yeah, I still think that. Like, I was a good player. Some players play better with better players around them, and that was sort of something. Me as an individual player, when I was younger, I was good, but I was never the best. And I suppose as a ball runner, you're reliant on ball players, and you can be the best ball runner in the world, but without someone to feed you the ball at the right time and use all the skill sets that you have of timing and anticipation, you're not really worth anything. So that, I did my role, reasonably well and played for a long time. But it's, I suppose I still look at myself, in that way. So you grew up on the Northern Beaches, played for Harbour United, you went to Freshwater High. Was it always just a foregone conclusion that you wanted to play for the Manly Warringah Seagulls? Yeah, I was born in Manly Hospital and played on my juniors, like you said there. Always wanted to play for Manly. That was just the team. I think I was taken down by my grandma when I was 8 or 9, and she used to sit in the corner there at the old Brookie Oval, and I had the wormhole with the #1 wombat. We used to go and slide down the back of the hill on the cardboard boxes until 5 minutes before kickoff, and then we'd wait and run onto the field and try and touch players. And heaps of vivid memories. And you had a family connection to Manly as well? Yeah, my grandfather, Mackie Campbell, he played in the Manly's first ever side in 1947. So he used to, obviously, keen interest in my career, and so he'd record every game. When years ago, so whoever we're playing next week, he'd look at if we're playing South next week, he'd have the South game from last year, and he'd say, "Mate, this is what you need to do." And he'd have all these, the corner post is your best friend, and all these little sayings. And he was an amazing player in his own right. How did you first get into the Manly system? When did they first kind of spot you and bring you in? I played the junior system, didn't make the under-15s, wasn't good enough to make Harold Matthews, made the SG Ball 17s. It was a little bit after that I was playing in the Manly system, but wasn't signed to the Seagulls. We played this carnival in North Sydney. Steve Martin came over and said, "Mate, I wouldn't mind signing you. Like, we want to sign you." Well, this is good. Someone's going to pay me to play. I didn't really expect this, but Anyway, so we teed up a meeting. We go to North Sydney Oval and look all around, and he says, right, like, don't say anything, don't tell anyone. So we went straight home, and my mum and stepdad and said, this is what's happened. You know, I think they've offered me $5,000 to play with them. How good's this? And we got a phone call. It was that night. I hadn't told a soul. I hadn't told anyone. And Mum answered and said, it's for you, Stephen. It's Bob Fulton. Well, like, they'd never called me. I picked up the phone and he said, I know you've been to North Sydney. I know they've offered you $5,000. We want to sign you. Come and see me tomorrow. And we hadn't told a soul, so I don't know how he knew.
It quickly progressed for you then, and suddenly you were running out there in 1993 for your debut to run onto that ground. What was that like?
Yeah, it's surreal. You know, you'd grown up watching these players and you don't really feel like you fit in. You don't think you're there. And we played Brisbane on a Friday night, and there was 2 fresh reserves back then. So they used to have, if you played reserve grade, you could sit on the bench and they'd use 2 players. But once you're on, you're on. So I knew I was playing first grade. I was a fresh reserve, and there's some footage there that I only saw years later. I'm sitting on the bench there. Me and Cliffy were the 2 bench players, and these Brisbane players are running out. And I can't remember doing this, but I look at the footage and I'm going, just looking at all these huge Brisbane players that are, you know, thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do? They're first grade players. What am I doing here?
It progressed pretty quick from there. Over the next 2 seasons, I think 94 you scored 16 tries. 95 you scored 22 tries. Did it surprise you how quickly you were crossing the line early in your career?
Yeah, you don't... Yeah, I suppose that the position that I played was sort of a wide running back rower, so I was second row and I could go the right side or the left side, and my role wasn't to do head-ups, it was just to be where you needed to be and turn up when you need to turn up, make your tackles. And I've always sort of had a knack for timing and anticipation and where to be, and a little bit of speed sort of helps you score tries.
By the time you retired from the NRL, 180 tries, 3rd all-time, greatest try-scoring forward ever. Do you let yourself kind of believe that now? Yeah,
look, when you retire, you look back and, you know, really proud of everything I've achieved, and, those types of numbers, the number of games and obviously your premierships and how many tries you scored it's pretty cool.
You talked before about it's all about combinations and the people around you to allow you to score that many tries, and the great combination was Cliffy Lyons, who you said you sat next to on the bench for that debut game. What was it about Cliffy and you that worked so well?
Cliffy was the greatest I've ever played with. The gap can be off his left shoulder, you know, and then 4 metres out from that gap closes, and I can tuck in on the inside to where the new gap was and just shout, I'm dropping on the inside, or I'm kicking out to the outside, and he would just look at boom, or he'd even turn that, and he would just hit me on the chest. He never once sold me a dummy. He was just, you know, and as a ball runner, you rely on the ball player. And, you know, I've played with, 100 ball players, and you know how good some people are because you play with everyone else, and they're really good ball players, and Cliffy was just another level.
1995 was a massive year for you, and it started with the Super League war and everything that went on there. What was your experience behind the scenes of how Super League played out?
Well, we were obviously Bozo and Arco were ARL, and we were heavily involved like Manly, so we were never really going anywhere. And I suppose as a young player, you look to the senior guys and say, well, what are we going to do? This has never happened. And we all jumped on a bus and got ferried into New South Wales Rugby League, I think in there in Phillip Street or wherever it was. And we just sort of went in one at a time and sat down, and they said, here's what we're going to offer you. Do you want to sign? And yeah, this sounds good. And it was crazy. You couldn't afford not to sign all these players, but you couldn't afford to sign all these players. It was a catch-22. It was just a crazy time.
Of course, the fallout from the Super League war is that in 95, all the Super League players were banned from playing representative football. How did you react to that when you heard that news?
Yeah, obviously it was going to be tough. It was, it was just it was a really strange time. It was, as a player, I suppose it was, you're not making those decisions, so it's the rules are the rules. That's what they're doing with. We just got to do our best with the outcomes, and I suppose that was a positive that year. a few of us made our debut for New South Wales that year. And then obviously went and 95 the World Cup at the end of the year. So we probably got an opportunity potentially a little bit before our time.
Let's talk about that Origin series because it was fatties, nobodies that came in, and what was the thinking in the New South Wales camp with Queensland missing so many of their players with the Broncos signing with the Super League? What were you guys thinking about it?
It's one of those, and you look back at games and series and things, and you never go in underestimating a team, and they always think they're a good team and you're going to do well, but it's hard to train your subconscious mind to do everything you need to do. And I think we were held up a couple of times. That Tim Brasher got held up. I think I got held up. I think it was one of the games was 2-0. There's so many little moments that can change a game, and I don't think people say you didn't think you were, you always thought you were going to win. But I don't think it's the case. There was, everyone out there is big, strong, fast, fit. It's about little moments, and if you win those moments or make those moments count, then you win the series. And they just did it better than us that year.
Do you remember the brawl in Game 2? Were you on the field at the time?
I might have. I was on the field for the cattle dog. I was on the field for a couple of balls. I'm not much of a fighter. I figured there's. You either try and punch them or you grab someone so they can't punch someone else. So I wasn't a very good fighter.
Obviously, there was the Origin disappointment that year as well, but grand final disappointment to play in your first grand final and to go down to the Bulldogs. What was that like?
It was tough. It was, I think that year we'd lost maybe 2 or 3 games the whole year, and I remember kicking off. And then I remember looking up at the clock, just thinking how long we got to go, and there was like 6 minutes to go in the game, and it was 18-2 or whatever the score was. But it was just one of those things. Sometimes time goes slow in an Origin or a grand final. You can be playing, you kick off and you look up and think, oh my God, well, it's got to be half time, and 12 minutes are gone. And then other times it was, I looked up and the game was nearly over, and it just went in the blink of an eye. And we didn't really settle into the game, and just gives you an understanding of what it takes to win a grand final. The mental side of it, not just the physical, we've got to be there. You need to produce it on, it comes down to 80 minutes, and this is when you need to do it. So, pretty tough year that year, with the obviously the State of Origin, 3-0 loss, and then losing the grand final was pretty tough as well. But it, came back the next year and obviously won a grand final, but you just understand what it takes to win those big games. It's not about how fit you are, how fast you are, how good you can tackle. There's a lot of the mental side as well. 95
did end on a positive note, but with the World Cup, and you went over there with no rep players, lost your first game to England, and there's probably a sense of, oh no, this is going to be a really tough tournament. But how did the team rally and win that?
We just had a really good bunch of guys that just wanted to play for each other, and it was that that spirit that the big games take. And after that game, we sort of cruised through. I remember that was the semi-final. We played New Zealand. I think it was 20-all at full time, or just before full time. They'd scored a try, and Matthew Ridge had the kick, so he was kicking for New Zealand. And I played with Ridgie. He's one of the best goal kickers I've ever seen, and he doesn't miss many goals. And if he misses by half a metre either side. And he had this kick from just inside the sideline, I think, and he missed it by 15 metres at the worst. If he kicks it, we probably lose that game. So to win big games, and you need a bit of luck. You need to take your chances, and that was sort of the little bit of luck that we needed. And then we just went into obviously to the World Cup final, and that was probably the best game we've played, and came away. So it's just a really good bloke, a good group of guys that, like I said, we weren't the flashiest players. We just really wanted to win.
If 95 had its disappointments, 96 was almost a revenge year for you, because Origin came back, clean sweeped, same 17 through the whole series. What was the camaraderie like in that group, and was it a sense of just bulletproof, we can't be beaten?
Yeah, it was just one of those series that we sort of, after the first game, we sort of said we want to do this with 17 players. It's never been done before, the same 17. Obviously injuries and form potentially gets in the way. But we were able to do that, and it was just determination that we, it wasn't revenge, it wasn't get back, it was how do we take each game, how do we take each minute, what do we need to do this next minute to achieve our goal of winning the series 3-0.
If New South Wales wasn't a sense of revenge, was Manly a sense of making up for the tough loss? Yeah,
it wasn't. You probably don't really think of last year and during the lead up until afterwards, and you just think, thank God we won it. It's the first feeling you have is of relief that we finally done it. To lose a couple of grand finals would be hard. We're the best team in 95. We're the best team again in 96. To win an Origin series, World Cups are amazing, but to win a grand final, it's if you're a good player, you'll play Origin every year. You'll play for Australia. You can win World Cups, but to win, not even the great player, not every great player gets to win a grand final. So it could be a 2 or 3 year build up to get one chance at 80 minutes. You need to take that chance. You miss out, you might not get another one. It's not like, there's an Origin series on next year. So we knew what it meant that year. We'd lost the year before. Not that it was revenge, but we had used those experiences. And you see so many teams do it. They lose 1 year and come back and they're a bit hungrier. The passion's there, and you get it done.
What do you remember from that game?
I remember scoring a try. Nick Kossoff took it off and I cut inside late and he popped me the ball. I was about 8 metres out and scored a try just before half-time, I think. I got the worst cork I've ever had in my life. And I look at the footage and everyone's jumping up cheering, and I've got the worst sour look, and my headgear's covering my head, and I hobbled the next couple of minutes and tried to play the second half strapped up, but made about 10 minutes and then had to come off and just sit on the sideline. But we were just counting down the minutes, the sets. Come on boys, just hang in there, just keep going.
We spoke about the grand final triumph in 96. Then there was the disappointment of 97. Do you remember watching Joey go the blind side and find Darren Albert?
Yeah, I was on the other side. Let me say I was on the other side of the field. I wasn't involved. It was in slow motion. I think Hopper's lying on the ground, so he's lying on the play of the ball for starters, and Spud or Nick Kossoff don't chase. Anyway, let's not get into it. It was just surreal, You play so hard and then come to the last 30 seconds and, I remember Joey passed it to him and what do you have to run, maybe 12 metres? And literally it felt like it took 2 minutes. He was running in slow motion. I was just watching him. It was just one of those surreal moments that where time stands still.
Premiership success now and being competitive for premierships, there was a big gap. Last grand final in 97, the next one you played, 2007. How did the team get back there then? What was that building like to get?
It's like to win a grand final, you can't just put the best players in there. You need, the salary cap, you need a group of senior players, you need some good young kids playing out of their skin. They're just starting their careers, they've got energy, we've got a bit of speed. They've got to believe what the club's about. There's so many factors. You need injuries, you need a bit of luck, you need all these things. And then that's just for 1 year, and you need to do that 2 or 3 years in a row to bring in one player, trade that guy. You need a lot of things in motion.
You mentioned salary cap before. Obviously, 2007 you lose to the Melbourne Storm. 3 years later, everyone finds out that they were over the cap. What's your reaction?
Yeah, it's disappointing. You still feel like you were the best team, but no one's awarded the premiership, so no one's the best team.
Does that sit well with you? Do you think maybe the premiership should have been awarded to the teams that finished second, yourself and Parramatta in 2009?
Yeah, I probably think it should. It's hard because there's a whole. You say, well, someone else could have played the grand final, and but then someone might have won in round 4 that should have won against. There's so many other factors. For people that just played that 07 grand final, or some people that just played in the 2009 grand final, they never got to achieve what they did. And if someone else broke the rules, then I don't see why they can't give it to them.
2008 was a better story. a fairy tale, some would say. First of all, leaving the club and the decision that that would be your last season, how did it all play out with you? Because you weren't ready to stop playing.
No. The club had sort of said there's no contract for you at the end of the year. I wanted to stay. I still wanted to play rugby league. I could have looked elsewhere in the NRL. I didn't want to play for anyone else. So I said the only option is to go overseas. So that's sort of the way it panned out. It's the nature of the game. I was so lucky to play 16 seasons with Manly, and at some stage they're going to go, mate, you're getting too old. We're going for someone younger. And it's the business. I'm not unhappy. That's the way it goes, and I'm happy.
Leading into the 2008 grand final, a lot of people want the fairy tale. When you're leading into it, do you let yourself think about it, that it could be happening?
It's hard. There's more fear of if we don't win this, I'll never get another chance. When I wake up grand final day, it's a long day regardless, but I will never get another chance for this. This is it. So what happens today? It'll either be the worst day of my rugby league life or the best day of my rugby league life. I've thought that 5 times in the 5 grand finals I've played. It's a strange day, grand final day.
When did you get the sense that it was a very good day?
Maybe after I scored the try. It was, I think it was like 26-0 with 12 minutes to go. I was there with Heath Lestrange and Mark Bryan, and we're sitting there and we were still saying, come on, just one more set, get to the kick. Just never felt like we were just going to run away with it.
When you came off, did you think you were done before you went back?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So the rotation, it was just one of those things. There was never a plan, you're going to be on, because this is what we need to do to win. So I sit on the sideline, and then Stevie Maddai got tackled and sort of grabbed his neck, and they said, you're on. And then they thought they'd pass the ball to me.
Talk me through it, from bench to the try.
I run on the field and I'm sort of saying, where am I going? And as I'm sort of running on, I think they're playing the ball. So they play the ball and, they sort of flick me the ball. I'm sort of just getting on the outside of Falau. And as I sort of flick it to Michael Robertson, he's going down the sideline and I'm thinking, he's scored 3 tries in a game. And then I started thinking, oh my God, has anyone ever scored 4 tries in a grand final? If I was him, I would probably try and score 4 tries in a grand final. And then, wow, he's passed it to me. And then I was a little bit behind me and I was just thinking, don't drop it, don't drop it, don't drop it. I'm not sure that's what you should be thinking, but that's, don't drop it, don't drop it, don't drop it. And I sort of caught it behind and spun round and put it down. And then it was like a dream. Just thinking, is this real? Is this happening? So, very surreal moment.
Over the course of your 16 years in the NRL, I know you said you didn't want to play for anyone at the end for another club, but were you ever seriously tempted to go elsewhere throughout your entire career? I imagine there was probably money offers.
Yeah, I had a couple of good offers to go to the Roosters. I considered to go play with Freddie. 2001, I could have gone to Parramatta. Brian Smith said, come and have a look. And that was a big deal. A lot more money. And that was probably the closest I got. Nearly went to Parramatta in 01. And took me a while to decide. And the night I made my decision, I said, no, I'm staying at Manly, and woke up with a sense of, I know I've done the right thing. To go overseas, there wasn't much money. I could have got more money staying here, but that's not what it was about.
Well, you were a cult hero here in the NRL, and there was obviously 2 major things that stood out. The nickname, Beaver,
yep,
and the famous headgear that you wore in all of your games. I want to start with the nickname. Do you remember the first time you heard it? Someone called you Beaver?
No, I've had it since I was 7. I think one of my first footy coaches just said, you look like Beaver. Off Beaver, leave it to Beaver.
Can you believe how long it's stuck as well?
Yeah, I know, yeah, it's crazy. Some, like under 14s or 15s, I'd played with guys for 4 or 5 years, and they said, I don't even know your first name, what is it? I said, it's Stephen.
And what about the headgear?
Headgear, we just started wearing it when I was maybe 15 or 16. There was about 8 of us just said, let's start wearing headgear. I never got knocked out or any reason to put it on. And we all chucked it on, and 30 seconds into the game, these 7 other headgears get thrown off. This thing's so uncomfortable, and I just left mine on, and next week, grab a mouthguard, grab my boots, grab my headgear. Off you go. But I had offers to change headgears, and I'd put these other headgears on and look in the mirror and just go, that looks weird. And then I'd put the helmet on. And back then, I thought it looked better. But now I look, and I looked horrendous.
So there's a bit of regret.
You know, when you have your kids and you look at them, they go, they're so cute, and then you look back and think, oh my God, like, that's what I looked like with my headgear. I thought I looked all right, but I looked terrible.
You played over 500 professional games. Was there a game where you didn't wear it, ever?
Yeah, one game, we played Parramatta, and I started in the centres. I've never started in the centres. So I said, no, I'm not going to wear the headgear. Years later, actually, a lady that was a huge supporter came with a DVD, said, here's all your tries. There was like 150 odd tries at the time. I'm going through, I thought it was a Sunday, I thought I'd watch these. And so I'm watching all these tries, and this guy zooms over in the corner. And then I go to the next one and said, she's made a mistake, that's not me. She's got one wrong. I rewound it. It was me with no headgear on. I didn't recognise myself on the field with no headgear. I look weird without headgear, but I look weirder with it, I think. Who knows?
Well, it was a fantastic career and an iconic image of you in that headgear. But if you were to sum your career up, I guess in a quick thought, how do you want to be remembered as Stephen Menzies, the rugby league player?
Yeah, a loyal player that was a pretty good player for a fairly long time.
I think that sums it up perfectly. Stephen Beaver Menzies, thank you so much for joining us on League Legends and reminiscing on your fantastic career.
Thank you.
This has been a Fox Sports production.